Well, good morning and welcome once again. This is the second time I'm saying this greeting this morning. This is Breakfast Extra, and like I said from before, happy new month. And may it bring you prosperity, may it bring you health, and may it bring you peace. However, peace is something that is not easily come by these days, not with America meddling in everything. They've meddled in Venezuela, they tried to meddle in Greenland, and of course now it's Iran, all-out war. So America has struck Iran, and Iran has responded in less than 24 hours, thus in the past 24 hours, while the big boys of geopolitics are flexing their muscles. Analysts are using big grammar, words like strategic deterrence and regional dominance. But I don't want to use those words. I'm simply here to ask the real question. If you are in Nigeria this morning watching this show and trying to order an Uber to church, why should you care? Well, it's simple. Because when two powerful countries quarrel, it doesn't stay in their backyards. Very often, the ball of mess gets thrown over the fence into your own compound. And now, here's the part nobody is explaining yet. Iran sits beside one of the most important oil routes in the world. Plenty of global oil passes through that narrow water. So when America attacks Iran and Iran retaliates, oil traders do not wait for confirmation. They just simply panic. And that's going to cause rise in oil prices, whether you like it or not. But as a Nigerian, I hear you. You're saying, oh, oil price up. I said, that's good now, isn't it? It's good news. We're an oil country. Oga, please calm down, because the truth is this. While we sell crude oil, we still import refined fuel. Remember, we still depend on dollars for many things. Some people in Lekki, for goodness sake, still pay kindergarten fees with dollars. Did you know? See, when global tension rises, three things quietly follow you home. It shows up as transport fare. It shows up as food price. It shows up as exchange rate pressure. Don't worry, I'm going to break everything down for you this morning. See, if oil prices rise globally, fuel landing costs can rise. When fuel cost rises or shifts, transporters will adjust quickly. They don't hold prayer meetings or anything. It just adjusts like that. So your Uber fare goes up. Transport fare has been affected. Next, when transport fare rises, moving tomatoes from the north to Lagos costs more. Moving rice from the port to the market will cost more. Nobody's going to absorb that cost but you. So it shows up as food price increase. And then, this was a bit more subtle. When there's global tension, investors move monies to safer places. Usually it's America. And that is going to strengthen the dollar. And when the dollar strengthens, countries like ours, well, we feel the pressure. And when the dollar breathes heavily, hey, the naira sweats. Importers panic. Prices will get adjusted. Businesses will reprice. It shows up as exchange rate pressure. So no, you may not hear bombs in Lagos, but you will hear price updates. And let's talk geopolitically. America says it wants to weaken Iran's military strength and stop nuclear ambitions. Iran says it will not bow. Behind that is a bigger contest for power in the Middle East. Oil routes, regional influence, global positioning. Remember, Russia is watching. China is calculating. And Europe, well, they're nervously quiet. But Africa, let's talk about Africa. Africa is mostly hoping everybody will just calm down, because we're still recovering from the last global shock. For goodness sake, please let the poor nations breathe. But Nigeria is in a very strategic and strange position here. For Nigeria, higher crude prices could mean more revenue for the government. But if the fight drags on and the global economy slows down, oil demands could fall later. Then prices will drop back down again, so it's back to square one for Nigeria. So today might look like an opportunity. Tomorrow, not so much. And that's the world we live in now. We're interconnected, very impatient. The truth is this, however, we do not control what America does. We do not control what Iran does, but we must understand how their decisions touch our breakfast table. Because global politics is no longer just foreign news, it is personal finance. And in Nigeria, pocket reaction is the loudest reaction of all. Dare I say this to you this morning? Brace up. Good morning once again and welcome to Breakfast Extra. My name is Mazino Appeal, and of course, Ina Maso is going to be joining, as always, so we can have some very interesting conversation. Inam, you walked in this morning and said to me, I'm not happy. Could you tell again why you said that?
I don't know. I think a lot of mixed emotions. Good morning, Mazino. A lot of mixed emotions. It's not a good day. I know that there might be celebrations elsewhere, but I think for us to actually be alive and experience and witness things like this puts a lot of mental pressure and so many things. Again, outside of us being on the telly, we look at it and we're just like, who really is President Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu? You know? What's the motive behind it? And I think this is something that we really, really need to get to the bottom of very quickly. Are these the saviors of the world, or are this just, like you said in the monologue, big boys flexing their muscles? And to what extent and to what end? So it's not a good day over here, but we're still thankful and blessed to be alive, I guess. Indeed.
At least let's be grateful. We do have a strip coming up today inside of the strips, the segment for the strips, and it's got Netanyahu in it. We're going to talk plenty about that and everything that's happening and how it affects Africa. But once again, everybody, welcome to Breakfast Extra. Let's get the show on the road, shall we?
It's an interesting morning, but still, this is Breakfast Extra, where tensions escalate in the Middle East as the United States and Israel strike Iran's missiles and naval sites, raising fresh fears over oil markets, global security, and what it means for emergency-dependent economies like Nigeria. Interesting. Back home, the Tinubu administration denies paying ransom for abducted students in Niger State, as opposition voices demand transparency and clarity on Nigeria's anti-ransom policy. Now, in politics, President Tinubu rejects claims that he is orchestrating defections from opposition parties to the APC, insisting no cohesion is involved amid growing political realignments. We also examine reputation and influence in the digital age, asking what the recent global attention on Nigeria reveals about our national image and soft power. Now, in our big report, we investigate, or we go to the streets and we talk about the begging across Nigerian cities, looking beyond sympathy to the structure, the economics, and the global policy gaps sustaining it. And then, of course, we'll take you to River State, where Governor Fubara appoints a new secretary to the state government and chief of staff. He moves, the moves are seen as strategic within the state's evolving political landscape. And if that's not all, Wellness Extra today, as the world marks World Hearing Day, we focus on the global push for hearing care for early children and every child, and what that means for Nigerian families. That is the lineup for us this morning. Mazino, shall we begin?
Yes, we shall begin. It's 1st of March. Happy New Month to you.
Happy New Month. You know, I learned that in Nigeria. In South Africa, we don't do any Happy New Months.
It doesn't stop there.
Happy New Week, Happy New Month, Happy Sunday.
No,
happy...
that's not the one. Anything for the boys? even Eric, but it is true. And we're going to talk about that today, the begging culture in Nigeria. Nothing goes for nothing, not even a polite greeting. There's always something coming behind it.
I don't know if that'll ever leave Nigeria. Like, you guys have been plagued with that, unfortunately.
Plagued?
It's a plague. It starts...
I dare argue that it is actually a culture, because in many languages, our greetings would say, "What have you brought for us?"
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It has plagued you. Something that was so cute and just conversational, but did you bring anything for me? Has now turned into a, you owe me something, anything for me. Like
entitlement.
Everywhere, from the airport, but we'll get into that story.
We'll get into that
story
just
today.
Stick around, stay with us. We're going to, have that conversation inside of the course of today's Breakfast Extra. But first, let's do the dailies. Let's start with the producers.
In the Middle East, right?
Know what we're going to be starting with. Oh, hang on a second. We are not doing the dailies today because we have to rush into our very first conversation, which is on the matters happening inside of the Middle East.
Yep.
So let's already get started, shall we, Inam?
Now, Mazino, as I mentioned earlier, that the Middle East has entered another volatile chapter. The United States and Israel have carried out coordinated strikes targeting Iranian missile infrastructure, as well as the naval facilities. Now, explosions were reported in Tehran and along strategic military locations. Washington says the strikes are aimed at degrading Iran's capacity to project forces across the region. Tehran has described the action as aggression and has vowed to retaliate. Now, this is not an isolated military event. It sits within decades of tensions over Iran's nuclear ambitions, its regional alliances, as well as its influence through proxy networks. When military sites are targeted, the message is always strategic. But But when oil routes are now threatened, the consequences become more global. Energy markets respond immediately, as we have seen them doing already. Shipping risks increase, and of course, insurance costs rise. Investor confidence as well shifts.
For Nigeria, this is not distant drama. Oil price volatility affects revenue planning. Exchange rate pressure affects inflation. Any disruption around the Strait of Hormuz can tighten global supply. And the ripple effect into domestic fuel pricing, well, there are many. So in an already fragile economic climate, external shocks amplify internal weakness. To unpack all of this today, the geopolitical stakes in Africa's position in this equation, we are joined by hang on a second, I beg your pardon. Do help me out with the name now, Inam, please.
Kingsley.
That's Kingsley
Makubele, yes.
Thank you very much. Kingsley Makubele, former ambassador of South Africa to Portugal and Kenya. You're welcome, Kingsley. Thank you very much. And of course, we have Sankarzu. Tam Sankarzu, who's joining us for this conversation as well. You're welcome. I'm still learning, and it's the reason why we have her here to help me with my South African pronunciations. Gentlemen, I apologize. But Inam, please, if you'd fire off with the first question.
Again, gentlemen, thank you so much. I'll start with Tamsanga. Thank you again. Now, in the context of decade-long U.S.-Iran hostility, how significant are these strikes now? And are we witnessing a symbolic deterrence move or a genuine escalation that alters regional balance?
Yeah, good morning, and good morning to your viewers, to your listeners. Good afternoon to those that are watching later. So this is very serious. It's not about escalation. It's not about any other term that you might use. This is serious because they have, for the first time, targeted the person that is at the very top of the Islamic Revolution in Tehran. And they have taken him out. So it is not about being reported as dead. This has been confirmed by Iran itself, and also confirmed by the President of the United States. And of course, Israel was just being cautious earlier on. In the art of war, it has been, not traditional to target the person at the top. So this is a new way. It's not clear then what is going to happen, because once you reach those ends, it basically means that both sides will try and employ different kinds of rules. It's not about the diplomacy. It's not about what's been agreed. All wars, whenever you think about them, Ukraine, Russia, or any that's going on, there has always been an unsigned gentleman's agreement that you don't go for the top leadership, which appears to be the surgical decision that the Americans and the Israelis decided to do in this hopefully, maybe they were hoping that it was going to shorten the war, but it is not clear what will then happen, because sometimes you take somebody who is at the top, who is probably trying to advocate for peace, and you get somebody who is very radical and get the opposite. Back to you in the studio.
Mr. Makubele, let's come to you now. Let's talk about the energies market and how everything is going to be affected. It's one thing for there to be war between America and Iran. It's another thing for it to affect countries that have no business, like here in Africa, oil-producing nations, non-oil-producing nations. What are we looking at when it comes to the energies market?
Good morning, Collins, and good morning, Inam.
My name is Mazzino. Collins is the producer who you've been interacting with. He's all right too. Yes, Mazzino.
Good morning, Tamsang. No, the reports that the Strait of Hormuz has been shut down by the Revolutionary Guard is quite concerning, because it's likely to create serious challenges in terms of the logistics and the supply of oil around the world. Europe gets its 20% of oil literally from that is transiting through the Strait of Hormuz. Strait of Hormuz is too strategic for both logistics and the oil. And now oil shipping company are reporting that now the insurance will likely go up. So the alternative route is going to be the Cape of Good Hope in terms of movement. But where are they going to get oil? And what we're crossing our fingers, I'm crossing not only my fingers, my toes too, that in the conflict, they don't go after the oil infrastructure in the Gulf. Because if that was to happen, it would burn down a lot of oil wells. It has taken more years to put down oil wells in Iraq that were affected and in Kuwait. So if this was to happen now, given the scarcity of the resources, it would create problem. When the market opens tomorrow, Mazimo, you're going to see serious challenges around the prices of oil. There are projections. Some people are projecting that tomorrow we may see $100 per barrel. If that was to happen, it would hit hard a lot of economies. South African economy would be hit hard equally because of the depleted reserve. We don't have our reserve. The Americans are talking now about the possibility of tapping into their strategic oil reserve. So the world is likely to face serious challenges, and this would affect the inflation around the world. That's a big risk that we are looking at now.
Mr. Makubela, still on that, let's talk about the regional power balance that this is going to affect. Are we looking at a situation where this is going to spill over from being Iran, Israel, into the Gulf states like, proxy wars, for instance, like Iraq, Lebanon, and Syria? What's going to happen to these countries that are approximately in the same vicinity?
You know, I listened to the debate at the Security Council this morning. Countries are saying they reserve the right, particularly the GCC countries, they reserve the right to retaliate. Saudi Arabia is making it quite clear that they are going to retaliate. If that is to happen, it's precisely what Iran has been warning everyone about, that this is likely to become a regional war. Are these countries going to fold their arms and not retaliate? We don't know. So I think that's where everyone is talking about really not climbing the escalation ladder now to de-escalate. I think what is going to work now is the back channel diplomacy that may try to diffuse the situation, depending on what the Americans want. I've heard some unconfirmed reports that the United States has approached Italy to try to plead with Iran for a ceasefire. We don't know if that is true. If that is true, you're likely to see the backtrack diplomacy taking effect and de-escalating the situation. But the level of confidence and trust between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran is completely broken down. I don't think they can negotiate anything. I don't think they can trust each other moving forward. So the tension will go on unabated.
Thamsanqa, I'll come to you based on what Dr. Makubela said. When we're looking at the channels of diplomacy, are we then saying that there's a possibility that the channels are closing, gradually, or there are still some open channels? And if there are any, what could those be?
Two possibilities. The first is that, when you look at what happened in Venezuela and what President Trump has done in many other conflicts that he has been involved in, typically he tries to make them very short. And usually he would have negotiated some exit plan with some of the people internal to the other side of the conflict. So it would be good in this case to assume from a diplomatic point of view that some of the people that were negotiating in Oman, remember there were negotiations that were so advanced between the Americans and the Iranians over this nuclear issue, which, by the way, we were told, you remember the 12-day war? When the Americans, got involved for a night or two, at that point, we were told that the nuclear facilities and whatever they wanted to do had been dismantled. So, but now that is the same reason that is being given. So definitely, diplomatically, behind the scenes, there would have been something that was being negotiated. The danger, though, is if part of that leadership has been taken out, if some of those that are in Tehran left after the taking out of the top leadership, then decide that they can't trust the Americans anymore, then they could go back on all that, whether the Pahlavis and all the other people that were being involved in the post-war, post-Ayatollah communist administration. It's difficult to see how that could work. So it hinges on whether what was discussed beforehand will hold. There's also a possibility, of course, that other regional players who don't want war, like the Italians and other people that have been brought in as neutrals, could continue. But there is a risk if this thing goes on for more than a week. then other people might begin to think that maybe it was a mistake, because the war will then develop into something else that nobody ever thought. Remember Iraq, remember Syria, Libya, all these other places. Then if it goes on for more than a week, we are likely to see something totally different. But if it ends within the next 3 or so days, then that will be achieved based on what they had tried to negotiate before.
Thamsanqa, doesn't that seem to be what the intent of the American president actually is? I mean, he came out to say it himself. He said, this is your opportunity, people of Iran. Go out there and take your government. He says we will provide as much support as we can. He seems to be speaking to internal dissenters to go ahead and rebel against the government after it's been weakened by the American forces. So you say he wants it to be short. He might have spoken to other people. But it's like he already had intention from before. Only this time, he never really had, what you call it now, established communication with a dissenting group, unlike in other cases. So was it his intent, do you think, the American president, was it his intent to leave Iran in disarray for the reason of liberating the people, or is there any other reason, especially when we look at it from a geopolitical angle?
Maybe Dr. Makumela and others will tell you that diplomatically, there are a lot of people who like President Trump for being direct, because he tells you what he wants. In this case, he wants a short war. He wants to be able to have the option and access to resources, because having access to resources in Iran has always been the issue that was, what happened before the revolution itself and the fight after the revolution in a Cold War scenario, whatever that might have been. So if there's an administration in Tehran that is pro-West, that will give the West access to oil resources and other things, that would be the ideal situation. But it's never that easy, Mazino. It's not that straightforward. Iran has a massive diaspora. Most of those people have been talking to the Americans, to the French, to the British, to others for a very long time, wanting assistance to go and reverse what happened in 1979. But in this case, even if they have spoken, they've arranged, they've got a team, they've got people who are ready to go and take over, it might not work out like that. You might actually have a totally new group, which is why I was saying, if this goes on for more than a week, you are then likely to have totally different leadership from the ground, people that can be militias, people that will arm themselves, people who will form their own separate struggles within. Iran is a big country. It will be very difficult to control if they don't manage to bring everyone together in the post-Islamic Revolution scenario within 3 days. For me, it's about 3 days. So you have to watch that very carefully.
Thank you. Dr. Makumela, I'm coming to you next, but before I do that, let's go on a very quick break, and then when we return, more reports right here on Breakfast Extra. Stay with us.
Welcome back. It's still Breakfast Extra here, and we're having a very interesting conversation with Mr. Makumela and, of course, Thamsanqa, who have joined us via Zoom to talk about the Middle East. With war escalating, America has attacked Iran, and, of course, Iran retaliating, losing their supreme leader in the process. And we're discussing the ramifications and implications, especially as it affects Africa. So let me come to you, Mr. Makumela. Let's talk about the implications for Africa. We've seen situation here in Nigeria where we seem to have a foot on the ground by America. And I'm wondering what this strategic positioning means for countries, especially oil-producing countries like Nigeria in Africa, where we have issues that are affecting the energies market. Does that send any signal or any message to Nigeria in any way, shape, or form?
Definitely, the message that will come out of this conflict is that we need, as Africans, to harness our resources and ensure that we have enough supply to supply each other. And reliance on each other is the critical thing that has to happen moving forward. Nigeria has huge oil resources. There's no need for countries like South Africa that are scarce in this energy resources not to tap into that market. So that interdependency will become much more accentuated after this conflict, particularly if the oil prices were to rise beyond what we can afford as ordinary people around the continent. That's where the big issue is. But you know, Mazinho, what has come up out of this attack is that the United States actually underestimated the military capability of Iran. It's for the first time that a country is able to hit 7 countries at a go simultaneously, and with the level of precision that we've seen. So it shows. That's why there's panic going on in Washington. Jack Schumer is trying to convene a meeting of the Senate to try to bring some sanity to this. I don't know if he's going to succeed. It turns out also that the Gang of 8, as they are called, senior leaders in Congress, were not all informed. Those on the Democratic side were not informed. So you're likely to see polarization and much more pressure, particularly with casualties coming out of the conflict. We're looking at what happened in Manama. There's a speculation that close to 200 U.S. servicemen may have been killed during the attack there. So we're going to see how this is going to impact us, but there is definitely a concern around the African continent.
Now, Dr. Makoela, if we look at the regional and strategic consequences, I want us to start with Iran, and I'm hoping that you would be able to enlighten me, especially because, of course, a few casualties, the highest being the leader, has been reported. Now, if multiple senior Iranian commanders have been killed, which some have been confirmed, how might that affect operational command within the IRGC or Revolutionary Guard?
You know, the Revolutionary Guard have a huge infrastructure we've seen during the 12-day war. Each time a general or a military leader is killed, they are able to replace that with another one immediately. It would, of course, disrupt some level of command and control, but I don't think it would really obliterate any activities as we've seen. I mean, I stayed the whole night following events there. The level of military precisions by the Iranians doesn't indicate a disruption of command and control. There are reports also that I'm struggling to verify that Israel Katz, the Israeli defense minister, has been killed during the first wave. There are also reports that indicate there's been an attack on Netanyahu's residence in West Jerusalem early this morning at about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock South African time. So there's no verification about what happened. You know, we are battling with disinformation and fake news to try to distill what is factual and what is fake news. There's a deluge of information on the internet now that is circulating, and the challenge is really to distill the truth from fiction.
All right. And then, Tamsang, if you can help me, in terms of galvanization now, could this galvanization hardliners and escalate retaliations across the region?
Well, it really depends on what the outcome is going to be. So if the Americans are able to bring this to a close within the next 3 days, and if the leadership that they had organized from internal and also those that were in exile, like the son of the Shah and others, if they manage to take over and they're in control, then all this will be something that we'll talk about as a historical but very important thing, where Israel now has, administrations that are friendly to Jerusalem or Tel Aviv, and everything will be different. But if, especially what Ambassador Makubela is saying, there's dismantling of the leadership, and there are different pockets from within Iraq, then that is going to be so difficult to fight. The Americans might be bottled down, trying to fight that. All the neighbors, all the friendly or allies of the United States in the region will be on the lookout for all these problems. They will be receiving all these missiles. Iran has got the capability that most people probably didn't think that they do. So if that is prolonged, it's going to be a problem. And just coming to your earlier question about implications to Africa, what we saw in Venezuela is something that could easily happen to Nigeria or any other African country if the Americans were so to choose to target the top leadership for regime change, if that administration does not, conform to what the Americans want. But if they are, kept in Iran or in that conflict for a very long time, if things go wrong, if they go not according to plan, then they might begin to think twice about getting involved in this kind of operation, because it's not going to be easy to pursue resources through military power. At some point, they're going to be stuck. So I think Iran and what is happening now is quite significant insofar as how the African continent, it's no longer business as usual.
Nope.
It's no longer, the Trump administration does not want African leaders who go there and kneel down and, give him praises. They just want people who are strong, who can show that they can advocate for their people, their national interests, and they're strong leaders. And if you don't do that, they either can take you out or they can work with you if you are going to do something that is within the American interest. But whether there will be military intervention, in the way that we saw in Venezuela, what we are seeing now in Tehran, maybe that will depend on what happens in this particular conflict. Back to you.
Thamsanqa, please, can you say that again for the people in the back, please? Thamsanqa is very. Thank you very much for saying that. I think it's something most people are scared to actually identify, but it seems like a pattern. But we're not addressing it. However, let's get back to Iran now. Let's talk about the units here that are involved. Might I say not involved? Let's talk about the army. The Iranian army have been an independent kind of unit when it comes to the dispute here. No one's taken advantage of them yet. What do you foresee happening with the Iranian army? I'm not talking about the Revolutionary Guard now. I'm talking about the army who have continued to remain independent, even from before the war.
Most people in the army will be young people. So it really depends on how patriotic those young people are. Iranians are very proud people. Those that are within the country will most likely resist anything that's coming from outside, including those Iranians that have been in the diaspora, and it's a huge group. But those that are coming from the diaspora are not necessarily military people, but politicians and political activists that have been, fighting and lobbying and organizing themselves. So there is that possibility that, what you saw in Afghanistan, what happened in Afghanistan is the Americans and other NATO forces, they invested billions and billions. There was military equipment. They trained local people. They thought they had everything organized over many, many years. But when the Taliban then started taking over, they realized that most of those Afghan people could not necessarily be relied upon to sustain a situation or an infrastructure politically that could make sure that the American interests are maintained. So this is the danger. Most of those army people outside the Revolutionary Guard might turn out to be anti-Western, anti-NATO, anti-American, anti-Israel. In that case, it will be very difficult to work with them because it's a very big country. What more if that leadership has been dismantled and you have, like the original concept of war within what was called jihad, not what the definition is in nowadays, but in the old ancient times where there are different pockets in different parts of the country, where it's difficult to have military intelligence on those. You don't know what they're organizing and they're all different, as opposed to where you can have Israeli intelligence that tells you where the leadership is, and you can easily take them out. If you have different pockets in all different parts of the country, all doing different things, different tactics, different reasons why they are fighting, then it will be difficult to fight those. And regionally, it will also start to spread. Because remember, the Iranians had planted seeds of, when they were working with Hamas or Hezbollah or any other, or even in Iraq, they have got, political capital where they can always get support from some of those people and forces on the ground. Back to you.
Oh, thank you very much, Thamsanqa. There are groups of arguments that actually say that the Iranian army might be one of the biggest players when it comes to the Iranian theater after this war. Well, we wait to see. Dr. Makubela, let me come to you now. Let's talk about the death of the supreme leader. We hear that he has immediately been replaced, however, but how does that factor in and how things go on from now?
Well, Mazi, you know, the political infrastructure around the supreme leader, it's quite intact. Killing one person who's at the helm does not necessarily mean the destruction of the entire infrastructure. And I want to come back to this question that we've been discussing about the loyalty of the army. The Iranian army is very loyal, and their loyalty is derived from the theocracy that is based on the Shia theory that really looked into the Ayatollah as a supreme leader and respect for the supreme leader. No doubt about it. I don't think there's any threat that the Iranian government will fall at any time now. It won't fall in the next few months. The issue that we need to focus on, I think now, it's how is the Iranian government going to react to this? I've seen a report a few hours ago that it's attributed to Trump, saying that the Iranians should not retaliate heavily. If they were to do that, you come very hard on them. It was published by one online newspaper, which is an indication that the retaliation by Iran was unexpected. The United States is not ready for that. There are political dynamics that are going on in the US. I agree with Tam Sangna that this war to go on for long, Trump knows he will be impeached without clear authorization by Congress, because the Capitol Hill has the authority to declare war, not the president. He can't carry on with a war that is protracted, particularly with casualties. So I think the Iranian army would close ranks now, and they would keep on retaliating. The next few days, in my own view, are going to be very fundamental in really defining what direction is the war taking. But I can tell you the Iranian army is much stronger than before. Areas around Isfahan, those are mountainous areas. The Iranians have developed capacity to build their underground tunnels and put their missiles underground and their production underground. Those areas are not reachable. These are areas similar to what happened in Afghanistan. You know, the Americans, the Afghans have a say that the Americans spend $1 trillion to remove the Taliban and replace it with another Taliban. So you're likely to see this conflict really going on. But I don't
Dr.
think
Makubela, Dr. Makubela, but the Iranian army, I mean, it's one thing to have a very strong army, of which we should question as well, because we don't know how strong exactly the army is, how long this will go on for, we're asking, but how big is their catchment, their resource, their military, their armory? That's one question I'd like to ask. However, if the Iranian army is placed on the edge of Iran, as they have been relegated to over the past many years, how much effect could they be in this war? Because that's all they have been stationed to do. They don't really have any active interaction with the issues that are happening currently. Instead, it's the revolutionary force. So how much of a factor are they really in this war, except perhaps after the war, where they could become that party I spoke about before and become a very big influence?
To measure the strength of this army, look at the capacity to hit 7 countries simultaneously at the same time, with the level of ammunition that we're seeing. There have been reports for the last few months. Remember, this build-up and the war talk has been going on for months. The Iranians have developed, the army particularly, have developed the capacity to build their armory and dig underground to protect their armory, particularly around mountainous areas. Iran is not a flat territory, and reaching out those areas is very difficult, even by air. It was recognized during the 12-day war. I think the Iranian army is much stronger than it was expected. It has caught everyone by surprise. I've seen comments from former generals in the US who are literally shocked, and they're starting to blame the president for mishandling this conflict. This one particularly since yesterday. So it tells you there's something going on behind closed doors in terms of the Iranian army capacity to respond and inflict serious casualties, on the American and the Israeli forces.
Tam Sangna, let's talk about the condemnations, because we've seen, I know that President Putin as well put out a statement condemning what has been happening, hasn't necessarily communicated, if you will, offer aid. China has not said anything either. So what role could global powers like China, like Russia, and like the EU play here?
Difficult to see anybody getting involved from a military point of view, at least within the next month or so, depending on how long this goes for. But of course, if it stretches like what happened in Syria and other places, then they will protect their interests in a different way. So remember, the oil from that region, as we speak, there are no flights that are allowed in the region. For instance, airspace closed. So the impact on a global scale in terms of the economy, the movement of people and everything else will begin to bite. So the interest will then define how people are going to, or how countries and other leaders globally are going to get involved. But there's no doubt that NATO members and those that are on the Western side would want to assist the Americans and the Israelis as much as possible. You had the British and others talking about participating, logistics, making sure that their planes, their bases, their aircraft carriers are used for, within the whatever the Americans might want. They might want to share intelligence. The Russians, the Chinese, they tend to stay away. They've got their own issues. And they don't want to face the Americans because there's no point in doing that, because the Chinese have got Taiwan to worry about and what the Americans might respond. So there might be capital in saying if they don't get involved, then the Americans will also be persuaded not to get involved when China does something as well. Or Russia, then the solution in Ukraine can be based on what Russia has been able to do. So I don't think they would want to dive in and participate, but they will be available as part of the solution. We'll see people going back to Qatar or maybe going to Geneva this time because the region might also be able. But the main worry for me is that if this extends, then some of those within the region, like Hezbollah, like Hamas, others that are aligned to Iran that are within the region, those could be emboldened then to start attacking Israel. So all those gains that you saw after October the 7th might be reversed very quickly. And I don't think President Trump wants that. He wants a Nobel Prize, so peace prize. So I don't think he wants to be kept down in wars that will cost American lives, cost a lot of, because things can change very quickly. If this war becomes too bloody, it will be dangerous.
Thamsanqa, the irony is this is someone who has been clamoring for a Nobel Prize, like you say, but he has started with the biggest armada anyone has seen in over 20 years, a very big war that might escalate into something that, we do not know the anatomy of yet. But let's take a look at geopolitical body language here as it regards the different parties here. You mentioned NATO. Europe, however, has been very, very polite. It's not really saying anything regarding where it stands where this war is concerned. The African Union, however, has called for peace, for calm, noting that Africa has been through a lot and the energies markets, anything that happens to the energies market will affect most African countries adversely. But what strong position should the AU be taking when it comes to this war? Also, I'll let you answer that one first, Thamsanqa. Let's not overlabor it. What position should the AU be taking currently?
Well, the EU has already taken a position because they are predominantly in support of NATO, and NATO is America. And they know that they've always said that Israel has a right to defend itself. They are allies of Israel. They are allies of the Americans. So in this case, them not voicing too much is simply because they want the Americans and the Israelis to take a lead. But there's no doubt that they are supplying whatever assistance that they can give. They are giving intelligence, and all those, especially countries like France and Britain, that have got loads of people the diaspora, the Iranian diaspora, they are participating. So they are participating behind the scenes diplomatically and otherwise. And the reason why they are not on loudspeakers is simply because it's a serious war. They don't want to be targeted, but they are on, participating in every way.
So what about the AU, the African Union now?
The AU is a template. So when somebody dies, when there's a war somewhere, there's a template that is, changing names and signatures depending on who is in charge. So calling for peace, calling for dialogue, why that matters is a template that you always have. That's the language of diplomacy. In general, most African countries would want to stay away and not put themselves in harm's way. There are so many things. You don't want to make yourself a target of a superpower. Probably the only global superpower in the form of the Americans. Nobody else will come to your aid. So in this case, you maintain your relations by not picking up fights that you can't finish if you start. You see someone with boxing gloves like Mike Tyson. You don't want to go there with your little gloves and start to punch them in the nuts.
But inside of that ring, the AU as the body for African countries can actually tell or suggest to African countries, whatever country, about their relationship with.
But who funds the AU? So you have to then go back to say, Ambassador Makubela will tell you better. He who pays your bills will usually, tell you what to think. So the infrastructure that we have in Africa, the Africa International Free Trade Area and all that, we have to develop that, because at the moment, instead of getting oil from Nigeria or Angola or Gabon or other countries, even Somalia, Africans are finding it easier to get oil from Kuwait and other places far away.
Samsanka, just a second now. We're almost out of time, and I really want Dr. Makubela's input on this one now. Dr. Makubela, should Nigeria be reconsidering its relationship with countries like America? Plain and direct.
No. I think it won't affect the relationship between America and Nigeria. Between South Africa and the United States, the relations will be the same. But I just want to say that there's no position that has been taken by NATO. The European Union is fragmented. Macron has issued out a strong rebuke for Donald Trump. Spain has done the same. So the European Commission have issued out statement. You could see the fragmentation. Keir Starmer has issued a wishy-washy statement. So there's no clear position about this. So they are all looking after their interests. Their biggest fear is the disruption of energy supply, not only oil, but even gas from countries like Qatar. The supply of gas would create serious challenge for them. So they're looking into their interests. The African Union, this is about their pay grade. African Union cannot even make a strategic intervention on the conflict in the Sudan. This conflict is about the African Union pay grade, honestly.
Boom. And on that bombshell.
Straight up. There's really nothing more to say about that. It's a dicey one. But gentlemen, thank you so much for your expertise and your intelligence and knowledge with regards to this situation. Of course, News Central right here, we will still observe the situation and bring you reports throughout the course of the day. Thank you so much, Ambassador Makubela and Thamsanqa, for your time. Mazino, above the pay grade.
Very interesting conversation. I can't believe that an hour's just gone by, but we've still got 2 hours to go. We've got plenty to talk about, so do stay with us. We will be back in just a bit with the news. Stay with us. Welcome. My name is Mazino Apil. This is Breakfast Extra, but the headlines now. Now we begin with developments in the Middle East, where the Iranian state television has confirmed the death of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, announcing a 40-day national mourning period and 7 public holidays across the country. Khamenei, who ruled Iran since 1989, was described by state media as a martyr whose legacy and mission would continue. A presenter on state television said the leader's path would not be forgotten and would instead be pursued with greater determination. Iran's judiciary also confirmed that U.S. and Israeli strikes killed the chief of the Revolutionary Guards and another top security advisor. In the meantime, the Iranian media are reporting the deaths of the daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter of Ali Khamenei in U.S. and Israeli strikes. Iranian outlets say the information comes from sources within the Supreme Leader's household, confirming the tragic loss. The reports describe the family members as martyred in the attacks though independent verification remains limited. Also, the United Nations is warning the recent military action in the Middle East could spark uncontrollable consequences across the region. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres told an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council that US and Israeli strikes on Iran, followed by retaliatory attacks from Tehran, risks igniting a chain of events that no one can control in the most volatile region of the world. The UN chief urged all parties to de-escalate tensions and return to diplomacy to avoid further destruction and civilian suffering. Now, travel chaos is hitting Nigeria and air passengers as the ongoing conflict between the United States and Israel against Iran causes massive flight disruptions. Nigerians trying to travel to or from Qatar, Israel, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Kuwait, and the UAE have been stranded. Major carriers including Air France, Air India, Turkish Airlines, Norwegian, Air Algeria, Qatar Airways, Emirates, and Lufthansa have announced widespread cancellations. Airspace closures followed retaliatory Iranian attacks on U.S. military bases across Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. Passengers on Qatar Airways outbound from Nigeria were among those prevented from flying on Saturday morning, highlighting the growing disruption to global travel in the region. Now let's turn our attention to security matters in Nigeria, where the governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mutfwang, says efforts will be intensified to avoid the wanton killings and destruction of lives and property in the state. Speaking at an emergency State Security Council meeting he termed as high-powered at the government house in Rayfield, Jos, the governor maintained that every approach will be explored, leaving no stone unturned to ensure that merchants of security, or rather insecurity, do not thrive on the plateau. News Central's Chizoba Nyonwe in Jos brings us details of this report.
This Security Council meeting, chaired by Governor Mutfwang, was attended by his deputy, Josephine Pio, senior government officials, and all the security heads in the state. It is definitely not the usual Security Council meeting of the state, rather one that seeks to address the recent security disturbances that have left many people dead in some parts of the state. The governor used the occasion to call on residents to henceforth end unauthorized roadblocks or face dire consequences.
Therefore, we want to sound very, very strongly that anybody henceforth that blocks the highway without authorization will not be accepted by government. It's an entitlement. Only authorized law enforcement agencies are allowed to block the road.
Commiserating with families of the victims of the recent attacks and commending security agencies for a job well done in recent times, Mutfwang assured that machinery has been put in place to ensure perpetrators of the dastardly acts are brought to justice.
We are informed that the security agencies are on the trail of the perpetrators, and we will do all we can to ensure that these perpetrators are brought to book. I want to say it again, that every life on the plateau is sacred, and government will not sit idle and allow people to take laws into their hands. We will continue to make sure that the rule of law prevails.
Briefing journalists at the end of the meeting, the State Commissioner of Police, Basi Ewa, says both kinetic and non-kinetic approaches will be used to checkmate all forms of insecurity in the state.
Going forward, there's going to be a lot of kinetic and non-kinetic measures designed to reassure the people of Plateau that the peace has come to stay. And where the need arises, the law will be applied without prejudice to anybody.
Residents of Plateau State, especially those of them in rural areas, are hopeful that peace will be returned to their communities even sooner than later. In Plateau State, for News Central, Chizoba Anyui.
And now in politics, the Kano state government has dismissed allegations made by Buba Galadima, claiming that some opposition politicians are being prevented from exercising their political rights in the state. Speaking on behalf of the state government, the Commissioner for Information and Internal Affairs, Abdullahi Waya, denied the claim, describing the allegations as false, misleading, and lacking credible evidence.
The government shall continue to support the security agencies operating in the state in the maintenance of law and order, and shall not relent in its effort to protect the right and dignity of all people residing in Kano State, despite the continuous backing of errant boys such as Alhaji Buba Galadima, who have lost bearing with the politics at both national and home state. Yobe is a public. It is a public knowledge that Buba Galadima, as a self-acclaimed politician, has no relevance in Yobe state politics and has not been recognized as a political force to reckon with. It is apparently ironical for such a person to give a judgment on the political popularity of a widely loved political figure such as Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf. Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf has been able to retain his political popularity in Kano State even after the defection, and it will continue to grow steadily. And Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf shall continue to remain in control of the political sheaf in Kano State.
In Central Africa, Congo-Brazzaville's 82-year-old President Denis Sassou Nguesso has launched his campaign for next month's presidential election, promising to extend his decades-long rule. Thousands of supporters attended a rally in Pointe-Noire, the country's economic hub, as the Congolese Labour Party mobilized for the vote. The first round of voting is scheduled for March 15, with campaigning concluding on March 13. 6 opposition candidates, including 34-year-old newcomer Destine Cavin, have declared their bids, but the fragmented opposition faces an uphill battle against the ruling party. Sassou Nguesso, a former military officer and long-serving leader, has remained in power since 1997, after previously leading the country from 1979 to 1992 under a party system, a one-party system.
Nous allons voir naître à côté de Pointe-Noire, non loin de Pointe-Noire, dans la zone économique spéciale, une petite ville, des industries qui vont s'installer dans la zone économique spéciale, créer des milliers d'emplois pour la jeunesse. Il faut qu'il y ait pour notre pays, pour Pointe-Noire, pour Brazzaville, pour tous les départements, il faut qu'il y ait paix et sécurité. Et moi, je suis heureux de constater que la paix et la sécurité règnent dans notre pays au moment où nous lançons cette campagne électorale.
And those are the headlines here for News Central. Do stay with us. We've still got 2 hours of Breakfast Extra here, myself and Ina. We'll be back.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Extra this morning. Now, back here in Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu has dismissed claims that he orchestrated recent defections from opposition parties into the APC. In his own words, he did not compel anyone. The comment follows a series of high-profile crossovers that have shifted political alignment at both federal and state levels. Now, defections are not new in Nigerian politics, but scales and timing do matter. When elected officials move parties midterm, it raises questions about the ideology, the electoral mandate, as well as the institutional stability. Are these moves driven by convictions? Are they driven by survival? Or is it just merely strategic positioning or external pressure?
Well, for voters, especially young Nigerians who seek issue-based politics, repeated defections from parties actually act to destabilize what the terrain looks like politically, especially as we move towards an election year for 2027. Democracy thrives on competition. Competition requires viable alternatives. To examine the media framing and also youth political reaction, we are joined by Mr. Orobusa Omojo, journalist and also publisher of Midwest Herald, and we will be expecting to be joined by Dr. Barry Johnson, youth leader of the Labour Party. Mr. Orobusa Omojo, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Orobusa, I was wondering what you thought about the president's comments when he said that he is not responsible. Did he mean that he is not directly responsible? Because there seems to be a machinery on ground that is recruiting, let me put that in air quotes, recruiting members for the APC. So, did he mean he is not directly involved in the defections that we're seeing on the political terrain?
Your viewers, I know News Central is widely watched, so I'm happy that you, my colleagues, you've taken time to pick this very, very apt topic for us to discuss this Sunday morning. Democracy is not a primary means of leadership in Africa. So it is in Nigeria. Democracy and everywhere in the world is built on persuasion, is built on results, is built on struggle by decent means, not by shooting, not by fighting. I seal the response by the opposition accusing the president of doing everything or coercing the opposition members to join the APC as a mark of lily liver politicians who want their cake to be baked for them. And some of them even want their mouth to be open and just drop a piece of the cake in it. I don't see anything wrong at all, even if the president goes outside his comfort zone to persuade any member, whether governor, whether senator, whether member House of Rep, to come join his party. Let's look at America. Donald Trump is doing everything to make everywhere in America to be red. And the Democrats are losing ground. Every midterm election, you can see the vigor that Donald Trump put into it to ensure that the Republicans are winning more states, more counties. Trump may be using a different method to coerce, if I may use that word, members of the Democrat to join the Republican. Nothing is wrong with that at all. As long as nobody is injured in the process, nobody is attacked violently, nobody is arrested and tried for corruption cases that have been left in the file for the past 15 years. Those ones I don't support. But if a governor wakes up and says, okay, because he wants to win a second term, I think I'm safer with the structure of APC in my state than the PDP. I don't see anything wrong in it. Let me say this. By extension, I'm a small politician. At least I have vied for offices before. It will be stupid at this point in our political history for anybody, any politician who is serious to provide leadership to look at, for instance, the PDP, if I'm allowed to mention parties here, as a vehicle for them to transform their aspiration to reality. It's not done. Let me quickly just say this. When we came in 2006, 2007 in Edo State to sack the PDP, many of us, including Comrade Adams Ali Oshomole, that I worked with them as a director of media and strategy, we were not politicians, but something prompted us to say enough was enough.
Mr. Omojo, please, I do beg your pardon. So, I do beg your pardon.
Let me just land here, madam. Just let me land
here.
But what we see these days is that the opposition are quick to blame a ruling party for their ineffectiveness, for their inability for them to be able to bring forth whatever they think that they want to change. If you want to sack a government that is in power, you don't wait for them to come and poach your members. You equally have to do everything possible to market your party, to market your candidate in such a way that it will be appealing to both the people that are not in your party and both your members in the party, including the governor, the senator, and House of Rep members that are decamping.
All right, Mr. Omojo, now what makes this instance of defection very different or consider it, what makes people consider it is the fact that it's on a very large scale. That's one. And then the proximity to the elections. But let's take a look at it legally now. Now, Nigerian constitution allows freedom of association, yet it also places condition on defections for legislators and also officers. Section 68 of the 1999 constitution provides that a lawmaker may lose their seat if they defect, except where there is a division in their original party. And that seems to be the loophole that is being taken advantage of now, especially the proximity with the elections. There are also certain mechanisms and machineries that are put in place where certain officers or individuals loyal to a party, well, we've seen this happen, especially in the elections from last weekend in Abuja. You have a visit, you speak with a member, and then after the elections, or even very close to the election, a defection to the ruling party. So how can you defend that? How can you defend the president when he says that he is not involved, when it seems there is a machinery put in place by him to actually make these defections happen?
Well, if you say there are machineries put in place, I want to ask you, you are a journalist, you are a broadcaster. Please, can you tell your viewers, can you tell me, is there any political party right now outside the APC that you don't have division among them? Is it Labour Party? Is it PDP? Is it ADC that just started yesterday? We are here in my state. Before anything could happen, we're having divisions, we're having factions already because of tickets that will be given to their kids, that will be given to them. They're already fighting. Now, if anybody decides to now abandon ADC, for instance, and say, okay, they are joining the APC, do we blame Mr. President for that? For our internal crisis here, for a party that can manage their internal crisis? So if there is a hole, we have an adage here in Benin. Benin say, it means if there is no hole in any tree, the ant can never find its way in. So if you open your party in such a way there is an internal wrangling, there is complaint, and any political party that is smart enough decide to capitalize on it and take your members and make your governors to defect, I don't see how we have to blame the opposition. When I say the opposition, I don't see how we are supposed to blame Mr. President for being smart enough. Don't forget, this was the president who started from Lagos State.
I think you just used the word that
Lagos State joined it. So if he's exploring political machinery and tactics
let me jump on the word
APC, he has done
Mr. Omojo,
Mr.
Omojo, you've just said the word. You said the president capitalizes on it, which means that there is intent. Even if he doesn't do so with his own hands, there is that machinery. Let's take an example from the last elections in Abuja. We had video, there is a video of the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, telling a group of people that if you do not vote for so-and-so, I will not build roads or schools for you. So if you vote for, no, actually he said, if you vote for him, I will build you roads, I will build you infrastructure. This seemed like a subtle threat. It seemed like unless you do this, we're not going to. So would you say that with that person proximate to the president, you can't say Tinubu without saying Nyesom Wike? Are you saying that this is not a direct relationship of cohesion? Or with cohesion, rather?
Cohesion or coercion, whatever it is, I differ from it. Let me say, I'm not defending Wike now. I'm not defending Wike here. But my reasoning is this. If you vote for this candidate, I'll be able to build road for you. It's just like campaigning for a House of Assembly member in a state or a National Assembly member. And the president comes up to say, please, if you vote for the candidate B of my party, who is running for Senate, I'll be able to build a road for you. It's simple. It's logical. If you don't vote for him, opposition comes to the Senate or House of Assembly or
Mr. this is becoming syntax.
Maybe that was what Wike meant. To say, if you, because
he said,
council,
I will.
The council
he didn't say
in Abuja are part and parcel of the development of FCT. So if you vote for this man, he will join me to ensure that the road to your rural area, to your house, to your street is constructed. That is my belief. And as a strategist, I will equally use that jury campaign to say, hey, you know what? It's give and take. Vote for this man so that I can give him enough assistance to be able to do the road to your place. It's not a threat, it's nothing. It's marketing. Now, there's something you have to realize. Madam, let me just add this, please. Let me add this. Take the capital market, for instance, now. If any particular share, the share value, the people that forecast, the speculators in the capital market, they can speculate that, for instance, a bank B share will say high on Tuesday. What do you see? You see people rushing to buy the shares of that bank a day before or 2 days before. They are on strategy. They are on strategy. The president has done nothing there. He has not put gun on anybody's head.
Mr.
Say
Ojo,
you must vote. Yes.
I just want to hear from you. I think what I like about these conversations is that sometimes our ability or inability to give a yes or no, it tends to be a bit tricky. In terms of capitalizing on the what's the word, Mazino?
Machinery?
No, not even machinery.
Which one now? I used a lot of words.
Yeah, you use a lot of them. In terms of capitalizing on the discord that is happening within the different parties. Let's not perhaps say the president, because I know that it becomes a bit tricky for us to give that answer. Is the APC capitalizing on the fact that there is discord in these other parties? Look, political evangelism is a no-brainer. You packaged it right now as marketing. The timing of the marketing is very questionable, but that's fine. It's evangelism in the way that he wanted to do it. We can't assume what he meant, but we know what he said. So from a capitalizing standpoint, in the various rankings, is the APC capitalizing on the fact that there is discord here? Because if there is discord, this for them creates a pathway where people can just really come one. It's a come one, come all policy at this point. Is there a door to capitalize on the discord of the different parties at this current present?
You want my answer to be that yes. And if the APC handlers were not capitalizing on it, I'm very angry with them. I'm a strategist. I have been spokesman to Comrade Adams Ali Oshimole. The last election that just passed, I was the director of media and publicity to Governor Siminalayi. We always look for pitfalls. We always look for errors in the opposition. The other party too have to look for errors in my own party too. And if they don't do it, it's their luck. Now let me put in place with an example of what blew up around the globe yesterday. Trump saw that in Iran, that the Iranians were dissatisfied with their leadership this present time. He capitalized on the fact that there was discord, there was disharmony on the streets of Iran, in the villages of Iran. And he went there to try and ensure that there was a regime change. He didn't hide it. And he called on Iranians to say, this is your lifetime opportunity. Change your government and better your life. There is no, like I said when I started, politics is not for the faint-hearted. I want to blame the opposition because why? I love opposition politics. Mm-hmm. We did it in Niger State and we did in 2006, 2007 with a party that did not have one House of Assembly member, not one chairmanship, not one councillor. We did it because we were brave, because we had a message, because we were prepared to lead. The opposition, and they are very selfish. Everybody in a party that is just starting, 4 or 5 persons wants to be president. 8 persons want to fight for the ticket for the Senate. That is an invitation to anarchy. When we did it, we sat down, the Labour Party and AC sat down in the 2 states and said, we have one governorship candidate, which was Adams Ali Oshimole. And that was how we were able to come together. We are journalists. We ought to start telling the opposition, anybody that comes to us to ask for our support, to say, you want to change government, You guys should marry yourself. Let them, using the word, they should marry themselves. The ideology, they should marry it. They should marry their interests. Everybody can be president at the same time. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, waited, supported our late president, who wasn't the most popular person because of his ideological belief. But because he believed to say, okay, after this man, I will have my turn. What is happening is everybody, I don't want to mention their names, all the aspirants here, I don't want to give them free publicity. I am very unhappy with them because they are they want to use the psyche of Nigerians to say things may not be working well, to say, okay, they will just sneak in. And you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not done. We should blame them as media men to say the opposition, they are crying foul, they are crying foul because they are lazy, because they are selfish, they are self-centered, or what my professor we call selfism. They need to cure their selfism first before they can look at the ruling party to say they are causing our problem.
Mr. Omoju, in all of this, nobody is talking about the constituents, the people that are being represented by these elected officers who would carry my vote and shift to another party, even where I do not ideologically align with that party. That seems like theft to most people who are in this argument. Now, should there be a law that bans politicians from moving, especially when it's past midterm, closer to get to the elections, perhaps there should be that kind of reform. That's for INEC to answer. But regarding the constituents, the people, myself and other brothers that I have at home who have voted in a member, and now he wants to switch, should elected members be compelled to actually seek a new mandate from their constituents when they want to shift or when they do shift parties?
Whatever we say here now is immaterial. It's like we are just professing. This has been put into test in the law court. To answer you, there will be need to look into those letters in our laws, the electoral law, the constitution. With that clause that says, except, that caveat that says, except there is disagreement that amounts to faction or whatever in a political party, there will always be fight. If there's no fight, I can orchestrate a fight within my party. For instance, if my party says they want to choose a candidate and I'm vying for the governorship of the state, you want to use consensus to pick your candidate. And the issue of consensus is very clear. All aspirants must agree before there is a consensus. If not, you will have to go to field. And if I decide to say, let me cause crisis in party A or party B, or my party, as it were, I can refuse to accept the consensus clause. Of course, knowing who leaders are, political leaders in Nigeria are, can go ahead and call me bluff, conduct the primaries, use the consensus, and not give me a vote. But by the law, I have a right, especially with the amended electoral act now. I can go to court to vent my anger. And by so doing, I start my preaching, I start my court cases, I write INEC, don't accept their list and whatever. There's a division already. There's a division. No matter how you interpret it, that's a division. All just like what somebody is doing now, you have one faction in Ibadan, the High Court in Ibadan, and said, this is this. Another federal High Court in Abuja and said, this is this. How do you question the man that is decamping under that circumstance?
Well, Mr. Omoju, you can't question. Mr. Omoju, you can't question it.
I answer you. I said it is wrong for a democracy.
I will tell you something, sir. I will tell you something, sir, that it would seem that there seems to be a very big disillusionment when it comes to the governing body and the electorates, the voters, the young ones especially, who are beginning to see these kinds of movements not as strategy, political strategy, but as betrayal, because it's stealing their votes and it's shifting it to parties that they do not ideologically align with. It seems plain and simple. That's the argument. And I'm wondering if you don't see it or if you don't agree that this is some kind of betrayal when it comes to grassroots politics. And this is what causes voter apathy, because if I vote, tomorrow is going to shift anyway, so why vote anyway? So the concerns are for democracy. Is the presidency concerned about the effect of these defections on democracy itself, because it's no longer seeming like democracy when you only have one party?
I started by saying I am not happy with the trend. I said that at Benicio, but I said we are crying. We are just only going to go ahead and cry, because we don't have anything as a media person, as media practitioners, to effect a change. And I said, except we go back to the law, except we go back to the Supreme Court, because there are cases already that has been adjudicated that give strength, that give power to whoever wants to take up. So we have to look at that. I said yes, because our democracy must be allowed to entrench in such a way that we not have ideological divide. If you are a Democrat, for instance, in America, we know what the Democratic ideology is. If you are a Republican, we know what the Republican ideology is. We must allow our democracy to grow in such a way to say, okay, fine. If they are a group of pious persons, very pious men and women, who do not want to live a life where our neighbors will think, you know, it is normal for us to steal public fund, to embezzle public fund, and buy flying cars. I saw one day the flying cars are emerged. And if I want to just wear my cheap kaftan and just be in a party where I have my colleagues, but all we want to do is I want to live among our neighbors in such a way our neighbors can come, take their buckets, come and fetch water from my house. I don't have dogs that will eat them or whatever. Such parties should be able to remain. Then if there's going to be a party for the public looters, let me use that word, the novel rich, those ones that believe that life is about them, service is about them, you know, how much they take, fine. So that once we go to the electorate, they'll be able to look at our lifestyle, how we live. Look at the other man's lifestyle and say, when this man became council chairman last time, it was bicycle he brought to the council the first day. When he was leaving, he left with about 4 or 5 cars. It's not left for the electorate to not decide. Yes, I want. We must be able. But again, we can't just continue talk without any result. And I'm saying that we should push as journalists, as reporters, as media people, we should push the institutions in such a way that the governing laws, the enabling environment, the enabling laws in such a way, we can push National Assembly, we can push the Supreme Court now, needs to interpret that session. What is it that defines internal wrangling in a political party? If you slap me, I slap you. Does that lead to internal wrangling? No. And INEC should stop playing a smart game of not accepting a list from this, not accepting a list from this. Once the court says, you know, don't accept this list, they withdraw it. We saw what happened in Niger State in the last election. How PDP
Mr. Omojo?
till a night, just a minute, please. A night before their primaries.
Right. Mr.
Courts
Omojo?
were still giving contradicting, you know, ruling or judgment on which list INEC should accept, which list INEC should really accept.
Right.
In such a way, we can have a democracy.
Thank you so much, Mr. Omojo. I think this is a verdict that would have to be ruled in the high courts. But thank you so much for your conversation and insight on this matter.
Thank you very much.
We're going on a quick break now, but when we return, it's all love and war at Breakfast Extra this morning. Stay with us.
And you're welcome back. It's still Breakfast Extra. My name is Mazino Appeal, and of course I have with me Ina Maso. Now, in Nigeria's major urban centers, Lagos, Abuja, Kano, and Port Harcourt, begging is no longer incidental, it is systematized. It's visible on major traffic intersections, in clusters around religious institutions on Fridays, and even on Sundays as well. It appears strategical positioning near markets, near fuel stations, near highway corridors. And the pattern suggests something beyond random poverty. Because even ordinary day Nigerians are beginning to adopt the style. People in suits, ties, shirts, well-dressed go about and then they beg for alms. Nigeria's poverty rate remains high, youth unemployment remains significant, and that's why we would see these kinds of things. Social protection systems remain limited in reach and also funding. Yet alongside genuine hardship, there are persistent allegations of territorial control, recruitment networks, and also handlers who collect proceeds.
Now, our correspondent went into the field to examine this ecosystem, who occupies which spaces and why they occupy them, whether these are territorial arrangements, how vulnerable populations, particularly children and persons with disabilities, are positioned within the structure, whether social welfare agencies intervene, and what enforcement authorities say off camera versus on the record. Now, here we give you our special report by Igbalani Omoni, News Central's correspondent. Let's take a watch.
2 years ago, a video from 2 years ago at Lagos International Airport showed an official allegedly demanding a bribe from a traveler.
5,000 is
I don't get.
Okay, bring 3.
I don't get.
But it's not just airport staff.
You want to use the toilet, they'll ask you for money. You want to check in your luggage, they'll ask you for money. You want simple direction, they'll beg you for money. What is it? Is that what you are employed for?
I was told, you give me cash at least 10 times.
The issue resurfaced globally after Australian author Mark Pollard shared a viral account of his visit to Nigeria, describing repeated demands for cash at multiple points of contact.
Everyone will ask you a question like, oh, where are you from? And it's with this look in their eyes where they really want to get to that next question, which is, oh, no, it's not even a question. It's now you give me USD, now you give me money. In Kenya, they say send me money or send me a pesa. So Abuja was the first one. I'd say the most annoying one was on the way out, where in the airport in Lagos, I go into the door and the guy says, where do you need to go? Points to me to the direction that I need to go, and then he goes, now you give me money.
The problem extends beyond the airport. Even the highways, checkpoints and motor parks, especially for interstate travel.
Hello?
Hello?
How is everything?
Everything is fine.
From where?
Netherlands.
Eh?
Netherlands.
Now you dey come? What do you bring come? See the eh?
I say what you bring come?
What you want give me?
Hello boys. Boys are the owner of the community.
The language may differ, but the message is the same. Anything for the boys. Give me money. Oga, show us love. We are loyal. Even Owomida, which means where is my money, is commonly used by street enforcers or agberu.
For every action, so you understand.
Reinforcing a culture where access, movement, and even safety appears negotiable.
They are government children. The only two different in there is government is at the top, those that are using them is at the top, but they are still having their own share.
So I should pay you money.
What was once a minor inconvenience has seeped into everyday interactions. For some, it's a shortcut. For others, coercion disguised as courtesy. The question remains, is convenience worth normalizing corruption?
This is not unique to Nigeria. It happens elsewhere in Africa. It happens in all developing countries. They're in professional roles, but they're not acting like professionals. And that is a serious lapse in the culture of Nigerian aviation. And it's not just true from airport workers. It's something that's true in many sectors in Nigeria.
Authorities have condemned the practice.
I want to emphasize that while we continue to implement internal measures to curb acts of extortion and other vices, the citizens must join hands with us.
Investigations have been launched, even personnel have been dismissed, yet the conduct persists.
How do you get ahead in life if you've got systems around you constantly dragging you back?
Stakeholders say reform must go beyond words, enforce rules, implement transparent reporting systems, protect whistleblowers, and ensure real consequences. Without consistent accountability, the practice will continue, and travelers will keep paying more than the price of a ticket. In Lagos 4 News Central, Igbalani Omoni.
And to have this conversation with us, we have Benga Ademujimi. He's joining us. He is human design systems coach and also social entrepreneur for a deeper insight into what we're talking about. Now, Benga, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us, Benga. Please confirm that you can hear us.
Happy New Month.
Fantastic. Happy New Month. Please don't follow it with anything for the boys, please. Because that's how it goes. Well, Benga, while we're here, how does it come to this? How has Nigeria found itself in a place where every single person out there, mostly in uniform, becomes a beggar, and how does that draw us back?
Okay, so I keep on telling people that the first three things you need to notice when you get to any nation is, number one, the behavior of the agents at the airport. Talk about the custom officers, talk about the police officers, talk about immigration, talk about the taxi drivers and all that. Then the second thing you need to notice is how people drive in that city. And the third thing you need to notice is the layout of their building. This will give you a holistic membrane and a kind of psychological psychoanalysis of who the people are. Our culture and religion plays so important role in this factor. Do you understand? So take a look at the Almajiri system in the northern part of Nigeria, whereby hundreds of people believe that one person should be rich and be feeding every other person. Does that make sense? You know. Then you see people in churches that they believe that after church service they have to go to their pastor to ask for transport money, even for lunch money, you know, all those whatever. So our culture and religion has contributed largely to this. Secondly, poverty and unemployment. I cannot say categorically, statistically, the unemployment rate in Nigeria now, but I know, I think it got reduced in the last 2 years. But having said that, it's still high. So we lack manners. Let me use that. We lack manners. Then family breakdown and neglect. So you see a situation by one man, one woman give birth to like 14 children, 10, 8, and all of them are staying in one room and one parlor, you know. Then the father doesn't even care where the boy is getting money from, where the girl is getting money from, whatever they can do. Mazino, 2024 December outreach, if I'm right, we were sharing foodstuff somewhere in Koshofe local government, and we said, okay, this is the order. Elderly people, we get there first, they can go. Then the pregnant women, then feeding mothers, you know, mothers carrying babies. Let me shock you, Mazino. People brought their babies so that they can quickly get, because an average Nigerian believe that whatever is on ground, we soon finish, it will not get to me. So they rush. Have you seen our behaviors at BRT parts, visa, name it, you know, even at the airport? That rush thing is in our system. So by the time the people, the third category, that is the people with the babies, do you know what happened?
What?
Women were going to rent babies. This is not a documentary. I'm not telling you what somebody said on social media. I was there live. They begin to go rent babies just because they wanted to, you know, get the food stuff. Guess what? These people, they've already collected and they want to get again. 4 weeks ago, I was in Ibadan for a party of a prayer. I mean, I followed a friend for a party. And people were at the entrance of the hall. They were giving them food. The next thing, they brought another batch of food. The people who got food about 5 minutes ago, they were still eating. They've not finished what they were eating. They left what they were eating and they went to fight for the new packs of food that just came for a new set of people. See, it's sad. Then lack of education and opportunities, you know. These are few reasons why Nigerians behave the way they behave, and they beg at every point in time that they have opportunity to beg. Look at the police officer. You see, yes.
Now, those aren't just a few reasons. You just gave us an entire encyclopedia of how it works here in Nigeria. But you talked about Nigerians. Let's talk about the
Are
systems.
you serious? Encyclopedia? I didn't even finish. Trust me.
I know you haven't finished. I know you haven't finished,
Yes.
because I want us to now look at the institutions. Let's look at the men in uniform, from customs to police, especially the police. We've had so many different instances where there's been call for reform of the Nigerian police. You think of the Nigerian police, the first thing that comes to your mind is the fact that they would extort you. So why exactly do we still have this persistent curse on our systems, especially men who are in uniform? Why does it seem like once you have a uniform, it has become your license to extort?
Okay. So, like what I was saying last week when we had the CP and the former CP on show, I said, our culture, our DNA, the way we were raised, we have this mindset. Okay, so let me put this. We call it, I better pass my neighbor mindset. That is, when I'm driving a Prado of 2010 model, and somebody comes with a Prado of 2015 model, now, knowledge is lacking in us by believing that that Prado of 2015 is better than the Prado of 2010. So we worship people based on material possessions. To the point that even the religious sector, it is jeep collect unto jeep, not deep collect unto deep, as scripture says. People respect their pastors according to the size of their jeeps and aircraft. And people who carry grace and anointing because they trek, they don't respect them. You understand? So having said that, our uniform men, they see that uniform, especially the one carrying gun, they see it as the only authority. You know, Masino, many people are so poor in this world that the only thing they have is money. Let me repeat that. Let me repeat it. Many people are so poor that the only thing they have is money. Take money off their life. Take money out of them. They are empty. Same thing here. Uniform man, you don't know that that uniform alone is authority. Power has been transmitted and transferred to you by the state of Nigerian government. So, instead of you to conduct yourself and be well respected, and what you did not ask for will be given to you when you comport yourself, you now see that, I mean, on Friday, while traveling, the police was trying to stop us, and the next thing, he was bringing out gun to do what exactly? Because you are stopping someone, and the next thing is gone, and they do that a lot. So it's a mental breakdown issue.
Okay.
That's why one of the recommendations I put at that proposal to Nigerian police is total renewal of their mind. They need reorientation, serious one.
So, Benga, if I can intervene, if I can just interject there, especially when you're talking about the reorientation and the reconditioning of the mind at this age that we're at now, because if you can open up your mouth and say, can I have money? Reorientation becomes a bit of a tricky situation, especially in Nigeria, where you see things like this happening at just different scales. Anything for the boys is because, unfortunately, we'll be honest and say this is at the lowest level of the scale. But if you escalate it and it gets higher, that's when it kind of exacerbates and becomes something bigger. Talk to me about what reorientation looks like. And is it even something that is possible? Because this has creeped in and it has become a plague, if not a serious virus that at this point looks like it does not have a cure.
Thank you. Number one, leadership is everything. Everything rise and fall on leadership. The body language of a leader says a lot to the followers. So get this. A leader comes out and says, you can eat anything, do this, do that, collect this, take this, snatch it, what are you saying? In essence, what you are saying is you are giving an unofficial and informal approval of corrupt or to corruption. That's what you are doing. But you are in the office. So let's paint this scenario. Mazino is your immediate boss.
I like that.
Then, Mazino, you are not serious. So, get it. Mazino is your immediate boss. Then there is a financial issue in the company. And even you're like, how do we do this and all that? And Mazino said, you know what? Retire the money to the coffers of New Central. I don't want to know whether you get it cheaper or not. Whatever balance it is, send it back. Mazino has sent a signal to you that is not in my leadership, my administration is not in support of corruption. Do you get it? That is where it starts from. Now, when you do that, automatically, indirectly, you are sending a kind of rebranding to the minds of your followers. Number two, enforcement. When enforcement agents become the breakers of law, impunity becomes the order of the day. These guys are saddled with the responsibility of enforcement, but they are the ones breaking law. You want to arrest me because my car doesn't have plate number, but you are driving a car that does not have plate number. You want to arrest me because Mazino, Iman, have you seen some of our police vans, cars around Lagos? You won't like yourself. Even the way they dress. That's why one of my proposals, I said, can you please deploy the graduates we meet in Zone 2, at GFID and all that we meet at EFCC? Can you deploy them on the road? Because what is happening on the road is a reflection of the people. We don't have to get to the office. When you get to the office, the security personnel, your front desk manager, these are the brands and the faces of your company. Can we deploy graduates on the road for us? And let us see how Nigerian police really function. So the orientation starts from there, the enforcement. Then to our culture, our traditional rulers, and our religious organizations. What do you say when you, as a traditional ruler, you have enemy or you have opposition? Don't let me use enemy. You have opposition, and the best thing you could do is to go and give police money so that they can oppress or they can torment your opposition. The same thing goes for our politicians. If we don't stop that, that reorientation will not work. We can shout. Remember during, who was this woman? Dora Akunyili, Good People, Great Nation. You remember that program?
Yes, indeed, I do.
You know? But at the end of the day, what happened? We could not get any result. So children don't do what say. Children do what do.
Now, Benga, finally, since it is already a culture, whether we like it or not, it is not just something that happens at offices, it happens at home, it happens at social gatherings. It's something that is entrenched in our very DNA as Nigerians. Not because it should be there, but because we've allowed it, because poverty has made us so, or because our culture and religion has made us so.
Poverty of the mind, friends, before the poverty of the pocket. Poverty of the mind.
Now, how do we go about rectifying this? Is it too late for those of us who are already entrenched in this culture, or do we start from capturing them as babes? Should we start reorienting our young generation or younger generation?
Okay, thank you. So in two folds or in two parts. For our generation, let me be honest with you, it will be tough. You know why? In Yoruba land, they say, if you try to bend a dry fish, it will
break.
It will break. Thank you. Omaru, it will break. So, for our generation, what we need is enforcement. That's the truth. Enforcement. Don't be deceived. Enforcement, that's what we need. For the upcoming generation, we need to add the history. You know when they brought history? You know we said it then, that this policy that Rukayat, former Minister of Education, did, that the highest scorers in JAM will go to university, second highest will go to polytechnic, and least scorers will go to colleges of education. How do you justify that? That where we are bringing out the best brains in the country, you are sending the least scorers there to become teachers. No, it was an agenda from somewhere, but people didn't see it. We shouted another couple, which obviously coincidentally, Fola Shadadi Fisayo of the former Commissioner of Education, Abola Torolagbegi, Yemisi Subal, we shouted then. The records are there, but nobody said anything. And that's why my pain in this generation is parents had gone to sleep. Where is PTA, Parent Teachers Association? Everybody's just chasing money. Nobody cares about what is happening in schools and to their children again. That is where it starts from. So let us go and add it to the civic education and the history, our constitution, and who we are. What is the vision of Nigeria? When you ask an Israeli, you ask a Jew, he will tell you who he is. Who is a Nigerian? When you ask an American boy, he will tell you who he is. When you ask a British boy, an Irish, a German, he will tell you that this is who I am. Who is a Nigerian? When you ask a South African, who are you, girl? She will tell you who she is. Who is a Nigerian? So until we go back to that board and define who we are, what is our vision? What is our dream? Don't forget, dream is not what you see when you sleep at night, but dream is what will not make you to sleep at night. What is our dream as a nation? Who do we want to become? Who are we?
Nice.
Until we define that inside that curriculum from primary school, then you have put it in their brain. One of the reasons why you and I are not given to corruption is because we have an informal education by our parents that we say, "Lot your humanity worship." That is, remember the son of who you are. You are going to work now. Don't do this. Don't steal. Don't cheat. Don't judge people. That informal education stick to us till tomorrow. So even when we are tempted, we remember that we have been cautioned while we were growing up. That is no more there. A situation whereby a mother or a father will encourage the son. Are you aware that in this country, that some parents, they feed on their children of 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old.
Benga.
So however they make the money, they don't care. This is the country we have association of Yahoo mothers. This is the country in 2015 that I followed them to go and shut down an office at Toyota where they were recruiting young ones to send their kidney to Malaysia because they want to collect 5 million naira. It's sad. We need to go back to basics. Morals must come back, and so that we can have a better country. Does that make sense?
Indeed.
Benga, thank you so much. I know that this is a very passionate conversation because it speaks to who we are, who we want to be, and where we are going. So I know that there is no full stop to this, only a number of many, many commas. But thank you so much for your insight and passion around this, because of course, like yourself, passion without structure can enable exploitation. And of course, this is where we're trying to nip this in the bud. So thank you for your insight and your time regarding...
Thank you for having me always.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Benga. Oof, very interesting conversation.
Anything for the girls?
Anything for the girls. I've got a question for you, but before that, there is this gentleman who was arrested in the UAE. Now, his name is, can the producers remind me what his name is again? I can't remember. But he was arrested, and the reason why he was arrested was because he went to the UAE and was begging. It's something he does here in Nigeria.
Yep.
He begs around celebrities, but when he got to the UAE, he was arrested. You get 3 months for that in the UAE. I think there might be a fine as well, but three months is what you get. So now we're trying to export the culture, but then it's such a Nigerian thing that we're known for it. We're known for it. We can't answer that question, who is a Nigerian, but who is a South African? Don't fall our hand.
Abantu.
Translation?
That's all I'll say. Have you've heard of the whole Ubuntu, right?
Ubuntu means collective, Catholic nature.
Yes. So it's a person is a person because of people, right? And that's the analogy that we have in South Africa. And just from a governmental standpoint, Mazino, sorry, I'm going to digress a bit. I hope the producers don't cut me in my ear. I think based on, some of the things that Benga was saying, sometimes I think as individuals, we make the mistake of, and I'm going to say this today so they don't say this girl is always coming for the politicians. I think sometimes we make the mistake of putting too much on the government. I think we do that. Yes, there is an expectation because you have a right to certain things, a right to education, a right to clean water, a right to all of that, right? But I think there are certain things that by now we should be able to avert or come up with structures and policies that pull us away from this. And that's why I was asking Benga, So how do we remedy this? If you're talking about the conditioning and you know, the undoing in order for there to be a redoing, how do we come away from that? I'll make an example. In South Africa, and I think this was a model that Nelson Mandela and the ANC at the time put together, which I believe I can commend, because other, you know, Western countries did this as well. In South Africa, there is a grant system. And as much as when we come to Nigeria, I've had a few instances where they'd say, South Africa has got a grant system, so the average South African doesn't work hard and all of that. But the one thing that I will commend that is a bit different from Nigeria is that this begging system that you guys are saying, we don't necessarily have that because of the grant systems that were put in place, right? So there's the medical, there's the grant for your children and all of that. So that, yes, there was a bit of an expectation towards the government, but it alleviated the situation for people to be on the streets. Because like Benga said, what the eye see is what the mind interprets at face value. So if you come into Nigeria and automatically this is what you see, then already there is a narrative that is being painted. So there has to be systems that are alleviated, whether it is financial aid from the government to, we cannot eradicate poverty completely, but there has to be a way in which we try and minimize the extent at which it is at. Because if you're telling me that you are exporting a poverty mindset to a country that is not your own, really, you know how they say you can take the child out of poverty, but you can't take poverty out of the child? I think that's the place that we're at, really.
Ndibuezi.
Diagbuza, really.
Yes, I'm learning plenty of South African. Yeah, Zulu, actually, I think.
Yes, it's Zulu.
To stay tuned, let's take a break now. We've got more conversation coming up inside our final hour for Breakfast Extra. We'll be back. Let's go to River State. Governor Siminalayi Fubara has appointed a new secretary to the state government and, of course, a new chief of staff as well. Now, on the surface, these are administrative roles. In practice, they are actually power centers within executive governance. In practice, like I said, but River State has experienced sustained political tension. Institutional alignment within the executive branch directly affects budget implementation, legislative relations, and also bureaucratic stability. The secretary to the state governor coordinates inter-ministerial communications, supervises administrative compliance, and also often shapes the policy pipeline before it reaches the governor's desk. And then the chief of staff manages access, gatekeeps political actors, and influences strategic messaging. Why this is important? Well, we will discuss all of that today.
In politically sensitive environments, these appointments can signal a consolidation of authority, recalibration of alliances, or strategic distancing from internal factions. We're joined now by Oscar Imaiba, the president of South-South Youth Initiative, and I think Victor will join us later on.
We have Victory now already, actually, and we'll be joined by Imaiba later. Victory Thompson, thank you very much for joining us here on the show this morning for this conversation.
Victory, please, the first question for you this afternoon. What political messaging is embedded in these appointments, and are these signals to internal party factions or to the legislature?
The message the governor did to Rivers people in terms of the appointment he gave out to these two persons is that he's ready for peace. He's ready to ensure that the state move forward right now, because I think he has realized that the state has suffered a lot in terms of development. We've not had a lot of the government attention on certain things that are supposed to move the state forward. And to my thinking and to the thinking of a lot of Nigerians who reside in Rivers State, the governor is ready to focus on administration, focus on delivering the promises that he made to Rivers people by bringing in two positions or two persons who are not active politicians, people who are not interested. I would say they are not interested physically or practically. They are not interested in the political happenings in Rivers State, because one of the appointments that was made a few days ago, the SSG happens to be a civil servant. And then I think also even the chief of staff is also a civil servant. But the general message or signal that the governor is sending to Rivers people is that he's ready for peace. He's ready to ensure that the state move forward and that his attention is not going to be on anything that has to do with politics, because he has limited time to deliver on the promises he made to Rivers people in 2023.
Now, in terms of the choices, do these choices reflect a consolidation of loyalists, or do they rather indicate an attempt to professionalize governance at all?
Okay, I think what that appointment did was to professionalize a lot of things that he didn't want to play politics. He didn't want to play factions or bring in but Rivers people were concerned about the statement he made on the day of the swearing-in of these two persons. You know, what he said was an indirect indictment on the activities of people who occupied these positions previously. And then if you listen to it very well, you know that these persons that he appointed before started playing politics instead of concentrating on governance. So I think he's ready right now. He has brought in professionals who are ready to assist him achieve a lot of things, and not politicians who want to cause more crisis, according to him, or embarrass his government.
Okay, so I would like to know exactly how important these roles are, the COS and the SSG. How important are they in maintaining or stabilizing a system that already has internal wranglings? He's been under tension since he's been governor, or since his fight with, in quote, the former governor, Nyesom Wike. So how are these people being employed now, especially in their individual capacity, going to help?
Now, there is no politics in government house right now. So the attention is going to shift directly into governance. There is no politics. He's bringing them in by ensuring that, see, your job is to ensure that the activities that happens in government, that makes government move forward, that makes the state move forward, these are going to be your priority. You are not going to play politics. You're not going to cause an embarrassment to the government. All your attention is to ensure that things or steps that are needed to ensure that these states move forward should be your priority. Previous persons who occupied these posts abandoned their duty because they are so powerful. The position of the chief of staff is so powerful because, like you rightly said, these positions are people who are directly working with the governor. So whatever activities they play out is as if the governor gave an instruction to that. So if you paid attention to the statement the governor made on the day of their swearing in, you will know that the people who occupy that position distracted the governor so much that the Rivers people suffered because of that. So now the governor is paying attention to government. He's paying attention to governance in the states, telling them, giving them that sign of warning that you do not engage in any political activity without my approval. You do not do things that will cause embarrassment. Please, my government has been fractured, and I want you people to come in with your wealth of experience to come and stabilize the government and ensure that Rivers people benefit from the remaining months that we'll have, or if you're going to contest for second tenure, the remaining months we'll have before the election period. Rivers people want to see things change. They want to see that the development, the things we promise people are what we are now ready to achieve, and not politics. Because whether we like it or not, the position of the chief of staff, the position of the XSG, whatever they do, these people command so much respect and power, just like the governor do too. So if they deviate from their activity, the people will suffer, Rivers State will suffer, and then governors too will also suffer. So the governor have realized that, oh, this thing is just is a big headache for me. I'm not ready for this right now. We are for peace, and let's ensure that the state move forward by bringing you people to come and assist. Their job is to assist and not to play politics. If you play politics, the governor said they will be kicked out.
Victory. So now that we've gotten that out the way and we understand exactly what the roles of these people are, the SSG and the COS, and how important it is to the civilization of governance inside of Rivers State, let's talk about language. Let's talk about the language used when they were sworn in. Let's take a look at this clip first. And when we get back, I'll be asking you details about what you think, or what reason you think the swearing in went the way it did. But let's take a look at this.
this appointment is not for any political empowerment, that you're appointed, you start raising or believing that you have a platform to abuse, insult, or create problem. It is an appointment to help this administration survive. Your duty is to represent the state in the most respectful way, bearing in mind that what is important to this administration now is to succeed. What is important to this administration is to see that the good works that we started, the ones that we met, we must conclude them in a way that will bring progress and development to our dear state. For the Chief of Staff of Government House, you're working under me. It's not a position that, as you're living here now, you start holding meeting, calling people without my permission. If you involve yourself in nocturnal meeting and all those things, I will sack you. I'm very serious. What is important to me today is peace, progress, and prosperity of this state.
So, Victory, you heard it there. It wasn't like as if it was on burn, it was on simmer. It was very intentional, it was very direct. Why exactly do you think Governor Siminalayi Fubara made that mention, especially to the COS, regarding his position and how he should attend to it?
Okay, let me bring you back to what happened on the 29th, 30th of October, 2023. You know, the crisis that rocked the River State House of Assembly and then the burning down of the River State House of Assembly complex. These issues are things that played out in a manner that everyone in River State concluded that there was misinformation to the governor. And because the governor is new to the system, a lot of things happened. He did not really understand how these politics happen, and then he swung into action by giving directives. Now, let me paint a picture to you so that you understand why the governor made that statement. Somebody went to the governor to tell the governor that the River State House of Assembly is going to sit the next day, which is 30th in the morning, to impeach the governor. The governor did not realize, because he's not a politician, you already know that he's not a politician, so he did not realize that the governor or a governor of a state cannot be impeached in a day, cannot be impeached within 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours. He cannot. But because that story was sold to him, the governor quickly gave a directive to his people, gave the directive to his people. A lot of persons will not want to like this story, but that's what happened. People swung into action and burned down River State House of Assembly. Today, nobody has said, oh, this person is responsible, or as a government to be able to establish that this, or so and so persons are responsible to this. But that was what happened. And from there, someone was rewarded with the position of the Chief of Staff. And since then, we've had a lot of political activities that have caused the governor a lot of embarrassment. If you look at the things that have played out since 2024 up until the governor made this statement a few days ago, you will realize that a lot of things happened behind the governor. And because he was new, or is new to this political environment, he was helpless. The governor was helpless. He could not say a thing. He could not even say, okay, these things people are doing, I am not responsible for this. When he had the opportunity to say it, was one of the service of some for one of the elder statesmen that died, that he made that statement that most of you are doing things without even my permission. You're causing a lot of crisis to me. You're causing damage to my administration. The governor was crying out because he knew that people who had that responsibility to create this kind of tension for him are the two persons who are close to him, the chief of staff and the XSG. These are people who were constructing an imaginary situation for him to act on. Most of the actions the governor took in the state was never because he had a provocation from someone, or maybe people from the other camp provoked him, and then he will make a lot of statements, a lot of actions that cost the state we are today. Look at it. We are supposed to be competing with Lagos, but see where we are. So the governor realized that this position was used to cause an embarrassment to me. It was used to create crisis, unnecessary crisis in the states. Unnecessary. Unnecessary. I repeat it, unnecessary, because from October 30th, 2023 till today, you and I know that the impeachment of a governor cannot happen in a day, a single day. But somebody sold that idea. And because of that, the Rivers State House of Assembly was pumped down till today. There is no inquiry, there is no investigation that shows that these are the persons who are responsible for that. And everybody kept quiet. He started rebuilding. You can't just rebuild without making proper findings of who
So, Victory, does this consolidate the governor's power? Does it consolidate the governor's power? Does it seem so, especially since after the defection to the APC? Would this have been possible? Would this have given the same feel if he was still with the PDP?
Well, it all depends on the attitude of the governor, and when he realized that, well, these persons who occupy these positions distracted him a lot. It all depends. If he had remained in the PDP and realized we will still be here where we are today by making fresh appointments or relieving the other persons of their position and starting afresh. If he's in PDP today, same thing would have happened. Because he's in APC does not mean that, he was given another chance. The president has always intervened. The president has always come in, even when he was in PDP. The president has always
but body language-wise, this is the most assertive we've actually seen Sim Fubara in a very long while. And this is only so because he seems to have switched parties, and there seems to be some sort of backing, in quote, with him.
No, there is no backing. People don't back executive rascality. People don't back executive. Yes, the president cannot back executive rascality because it is not the president that will instruct you or will tell you that A, B, C, and D, you should not do it because it is the interest of Rivers people. No, it is not. You had an issues with the Rivers State House of Assembly members, or even the speaker, or members of the Rivers State House of Assembly. You had issues with them.
So, Victory,
instead of you...
sorry, very quickly, to just cut you, apologies. So where would you then say that this confidence and firmness is coming from now? I don't think in order for you to be bold at what you are doing and assertive, hold on. I don't believe that the assertiveness comes primarily from the president, all right? So we are seeing a different demeanor in his body language and in the assertiveness. Where is that coming from if you're saying there's no backing?
Oh dear, we've lost his audio. You scared him away, and I'm joking. Well, Victor, we hope that you're still there. We hope you heard that question. Unfortunately, we might not be able to get you to answer it because we are also out of time. If only Inam wasn't so... But River State really is going through a period now seeming to, well, heal its wounds. And we hope that we can follow the story through, and maybe for the benefit of the people, they can get some reprieve to whatever the circumstances they're going through there. I want to say thank you to Victory for joining us for that conversation, albeit that it ended abruptly with us losing that connection. But let's go on a break now. We've still got one more segment to go inside of Breakfast Extra here for a Sunday. We'll be back.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, today is World Hearing Day. And of course, World Hearing Day highlights a silent public health challenge. Childhood hearing loss often goes undetected in its early stages. In many cases, by the time speech delay becomes visible, critical development windows have already narrowed down. Now, globally, the World Health Organization estimates that a significant proportion of hearing loss in children is preventable through vaccinations, infection management, safe childbirth practices, and early screening. Now, in Nigeria, universal newborn hearing screenings is not yet standard practice. Access to audiology services is concentrated in major urban centers. Now, hearing aids, interesting English, cochlear implants and therapy services remain financially inaccessible for many families.
Now, untreated hearing loss affects language acquisition, literacy development, and also classroom participation, and eventually unemployability. The cost is long-term and intergenerational when you look at it. We are joined now by Chiwela Barbara Malundo. She's a speech therapist and also audiologist at Orel Therapy Center. Chiwela, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You.
And now, Chiwela, just give us a bit of a background. Based on availability and, of course, the available data and clinical experiences, what proportions of childhood hearing loss, I'm not sure if you can give us the statistics in Nigeria, so I'll say in Africa generally, is preventable through vaccinations, early infection treatment, or safety delivery practices?
Well, so just like you said, the World Health Organization does state that 60% of them can be prevented. This is in light of looking at the provision of vaccinations to diseases that can result in otitis media, which is ear infection. So we're looking at preventative vaccinations for mumps and measles, rubella. We're looking at preventative measures of surgeries to remove tonsils for kids that have recurrent tonsillitis and grommets. Those are the things that we need to prevent in order for us to prevent otitis media. So in cases of recurrent otitis media, this is where the otitis media is occurring much more often and therefore leaving perforations in the ear. So then that results in a conductive hearing loss.
Oh, wow.
That's very interesting. I'm noting a relationship between the throat and the ear because you just said tonsillitis. How exactly is that related?
So with tonsillitis, it creates this oral fullness, what we call oral fullness. It's almost like a blockage in your ear. So then it creates moisture, which then results into the ear infection.
Oh, wow. And then in terms of development, at what exact developmental milestone should routine hearing screenings be implemented? And of course, should it be mandatory at birth, 6 months, or school entry?
Definitely at birth, because early intervention and early detection is key. This gives the child a chance in society and a chance in education as well. So early detection, meaning newborn hearing screenings that need to be done when the child is born, that to detect whether the child's inner ear is working or not. So this can be done through screenings using ABR equipments to detect whether or not there's functionality in the inner ear of the child. So we definitely need to start early. If it's late, and for those kids that are more at risk because of the medication that they're taking that might be toxic, routine checks at 6 months are definitely recommended as well.
Chiwela, in Nigeria here, it's not something that we absolutely practice. Most parents just think he's going to be okay. You know, they don't really bother. It's not. You have a kid, you just expect there's 100. So when it comes to monitoring if or if not kids have these diseases that might lead to hearing loss, it's not on our table. But what would you suggest that parents look out for when it comes to wanting to know about the status of our kids' health when it comes to their hearing?
There are certain early signs that can be present, definitely, especially in young ones, because developmentally there are certain milestones that need to be met in terms of language, and those milestones tend to be delayed when there's hearing loss. So we are looking at, does the child respond to their name when they are called? We are looking at, is the child only depending on your actions in order for them to respond? Are they looking at your face to try and lip read what you're saying? Are they able to respond to environmental noises like a bang of the door or something falling in the house? Those are certain signs that could tell you that this child is unable to hear.
And when could it be too late to have anything done? Is it reversible when you notice on time?
on time. It's not technically reversible, but help can be made. For example, if a child does need cochlear implant, we need early detection. A cochlear implant is for kids that do not have, cannot benefit from in-ear hearing aids. So the implant is put on the head to kind of transmit the sound to the bone. So we have those things, but those things are available the earlier, the better for surgery purposes. And then we have hearing aids that can be provided for the child. If the child is detected early, it kind of gives them a push in terms of language development, developing vocabulary, later on in school, developing social skills and being able to engage with their environment in general.
Now, Barbara, I'm curious to find out if we're looking at the rural areas and the underdeveloped settlements, especially within the African region, how accessible is diagnostic audiology services available to them?
Unfortunately, the saddest part is that some parts of our African countries, including South Africa, where in rural areas, our services are still not available, especially for newborn hearing screenings. You find that in instances like South Africa, places where we'd normally have local government clinics, that facility of newborn screening will not be available. So in the rural areas, it's definitely less available than it is available in the modern areas and the middle areas. So with Africa in general, the problem stems from the lack of professionals that are actually qualified to offer hearing screenings and to do those tests, and the cost as well. The cost of the equipment, the cost of the services in general makes it a little bit more inaccessible to rural areas.
That's very interesting. Mazino, is there anything?
No, I'm very satisfied with the information that I'm getting here. I'm just very, I'm pleased that we're giving attention to this now. And I never knew until today, until during the week, that there was actually a day dedicated to hearing. It makes me wonder exactly how many people, now that we're talking about people in rural areas, how many people or kids that have actually gone without these benefits of healthcare, where they could actually have had their hearing saved. However, in Africa generally, is there a stat or statistics that shows exactly how many children have hearing loss or are prone to hearing loss?
The stats are quite high. The stats are quite high, and that results in the untreated and recurrent otitis media that happens in our society. So it's more than 65%, which is a lot, which is high because it's more than 50% of untreated otitis media, and that then results in conductive hearing losses. And then you find in situations where it's in rural areas where parents are trying to self-treat the infection by putting cotton buds inside, which then worsens the infection. So in all those instances where there's limited healthcare, we are finding the stats being quite high.
Oh, wow.
You just touched on something I really wanted to know about. Is it bad to use cotton buds in your ear?
Yes.
No?
Definitely.
No, it's not.
We say no
to
cotton buds.
It feels good.
It feels good. It doesn't solve the problem.
There's a nerve in there. Yeah, it does feel good because there's a nerve you're innervating in there. But however, if you have earwax that's stuck there, you might actually push it closer to your tympanic membrane, and we don't want that.
Yeah, my mom's got a remedy for that. Maybe I should ask again. Now, what she would do is fill your ear up with water and just a dash of iodine. I know that must be bad. Is it?
The oil, she's in a good spot. We use sweet oil to soften the wax, and that helps the wax to actually soften up. And then once the wax is softened up, it's safer for removal, because oftentimes wax that has stayed there long enough gets dry, and now when you're trying to pull it out, it kind of pulls the skin, which hurts the skin in turn. So to prevent that, putting sweet oil or things like serum oil helps soften the wax so that it's safe for removal.
Barbara, I wanted to ask a question, because it is a World Hearing Day. So outside of just children, we live in a society and a generation where everybody has got a headphone. How does headphones, different versions, whether it's the headphone or the earphone, and the volume as well, how does this affect our hearing? Does it affect our hearing, actually?
it does. It does in the long term. Overuse of headphones does affect. There's something we call noise-induced hearing loss. So this is hearing loss due to overexposure of noise in general. So this could be through your headphones, banging noises consistently in your ears, and this can also be occupationally. Maybe you work in a factory where noise is prominent and you are not using protective hearing. Those can then result in you having the hearing loss.
So we've got one producer here. She's got a very shrill voice, and we wear these all through the show. So you're saying that this is dangerous for me now, so I'm sorry, Maeve, I have to take it. I'm not using it again.
She'll induce hearing loss.
I'm trying to save my hearing, so I'm not using this ever again. I don't know what you're saying. If you're is she saying anything?
She's not saying anything. Barbara, finally, before we let you go.
Usually 30 dB, which is safe. So it's not like you're listening to music, which can be higher than 30 dB.
You haven't heard this producer. You haven't heard her.
She's loud.
She's horribly loud.
Meva is definitely coming for you after this session. Barbara, finally, let's look at next steps. Let's look at it from a primary school or government school or whatever it is that you would call it. What does implementation look like? Partnership between government schools and the government?
Yes. So partnership would look like getting the children screened when they enter into school settings, helping them to helping that detection to be there, because we can have other things other than just auditory problems. In terms, we can have central auditory problems which are in the brain that can now discredit this child. So we need those systems to be in place, and working towards early detection and early fitting of hearing aids and cochlear implants definitely gives children a chance in scholastic settings, and having that merge from the healthcare system into the government system or into the education system will help definitely our kids to progress well in school and actually participate in school.
Well, I want to say thank you very much for joining us and having this very exciting conversation with us about our ears and World Hearing Day and how we should take care of it and how kids could benefit from early detection. Thank you very much. We really love that you're ending our show here today with this conversation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mazino, can you hear me?
In the ways. Of course I can. It's been a grand show since yesterday morning here on Breakfast Extra. If you joined us up until now, thank you very much. If you only joined us today, well, hey, you're welcome to do so again from next week on Saturday. But through the week, it's going to be our crew for the weekdays. That's Breakfast Central. Of course, it's going to be Joe Hansing, Benga Gbarawa, and Oliver Modi. Grand. I was the producer. She's come again with her voice. Well, we're meeting where?
She's challenging Mazino to a duel at Tafawa Balewa Square. She's going to scream in his ear profusely.
I am out of here. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you very much. Let's say our goodbyes until we see you again. Well, I'll be reading you the news at noon, but yeah, it's bye-bye.
Thank you so much. All right, till next week.